I went black for like a week, and poof.
So where you at?
Gotta go. After that one, poof. I came back, poof.
Lil Jeff, also known as Bloodhound, was a rapper and gang member from the east side of Chicago who gained notoriety for openly admitting to his involvement in several murders. His name became widely recognized after his shocking confessions on social media, where he unapologetically talked about the violence he had committed. His story was not one of hiding or denying his actions, but one of claiming them, almost as if he wore them like a badge of honor. But the reality of the situation was much darker, and the consequences were far-reaching. In a world where many people involved in violence tend to keep their actions a secret or disguise them behind a facade of innocence, Lil Jeff's behavior stood out. He openly admitted to taking the lives of 2 young boys, something that shook many people to their core. It was not only the violence itself that shocked people, but how calm and emotionless he appeared afterward. Just minutes after committing murder, he went live on social media, showing little to no remorse. He seemed almost proud of what he had done, with adrenaline still coursing through his veins. His demeanor was chilling as he continued his violent streak without hesitation. What was behind all of this? How did Lil Jeff come to this point? What made him confess so publicly? To understand, we must look deeper into his life and the choices that led him down this dangerous path. Lil Jeff was born and raised on the east side of Chicago, an area known for its high levels of violence and gang activity. From a young age, he was exposed to a world that many would consider unimaginable. The streets became his home, and the only way to survive was to be tough, ruthless, and willing to fight for your place in the gang. For Lil Jeff, it was not just about surviving. It was about proving his loyalty to his gang, Bloodhound, and asserting his dominance in a world filled with rivals and enemies. He wanted to be known as someone to fear, and in the world he lived in, that meant violence was often necessary. One of the major turning points in Lil Jeff's life came with the death of his close friend, Zed Money. Zed Money, who was also a member of Bloodhound, was killed by members of a rival gang, Trap City. The loss of his friend hit Lil Jeff hard, but it also fueled his desire for revenge. In the world of gangs, revenge is often seen as a way to honor the dead and prove loyalty to those who have been lost. For Lil Jeff, this was not just about seeking justice but about asserting his power and making a statement. The first major act of retaliation came with the murder of Jel Ulgoz, a 19-year-old member of Trap City. According to Lil Jeff, this murder was not just random. It was a direct response to Zed Money's death. Lil Jeff saw Jel Ulgoz as a target because of his affiliation with the rival gang that had taken his friend's life. In the violent world of Chicago's gangs, taking the life of someone from a rival group is seen as a way to restore balance and send a message. Lil Jeff's involvement in this murder cemented his place in the gang world and sent a clear signal that he was not to be messed with. But Lil Jeff did not stop there. He continued his violent streak, and his actions became more brazen. His public confession of his crimes, especially his role in the murders, was something that set him apart from many others in the streets. Most people involved in such violence would keep quiet, hoping to avoid the attention of law enforcement and their enemies. But Lil Jeff did the opposite. He went live on social media just minutes after committing murder, talking openly about the crime with a level of confidence that was disturbing. He had no fear of the consequences. It was as if he believed that his actions were justified or even deserving of admiration. The reaction to Lil Jeff's confessions was one of shock and disbelief. Many people, both within the gang community and outside of it, were stunned by how openly he talked about taking lives. It was not just the fact that he admitted to committing such violent acts, but the way he presented them to the world. He acted as though it was a normal part of his life, and this was just another chapter in the story of his existence. For some, it was a chilling reminder of the depth of violence that exists in certain parts of Chicago, and for others, it was a clear warning about the dangers of gang life. But despite his open confessions, Lil Jeff continued to rise in prominence, especially in the drill music scene. Drill music, a subgenre of hip-hop that originated in Chicago, often highlights the harsh realities of life in the streets. It talks about violence, survival, and the struggles of living in areas controlled by gangs. Lil Jeff became a well-known figure in this scene, and his music reflected the life he had lived, one filled with danger, loss, and violence. For him, drill music was more than just a way to make money or gain. Jeff believed that members of Trap City were the ones who took Zed Money's life. In his mind, killing Jel Ulgoz was his way of getting revenge. For him, it was not just about violence. It was personal. The incident happened on June 25, 2023, in the Little Italy neighborhood of Chicago. Lil had just gotten into the back seat of a lift on West Taylor Street when another car pulled up. A man got out, walked up to the car, and started shooting through the back window. Lil was hit many times. He was rushed to the hospital, but the doctors could not save him. He was pronounced dead soon after. Right after the murder, Lil Jeff and other members of Bloodhound went on social media and took credit for what happened. They did not try to hide it. Instead, they spoke about it openly for everyone to see. Interview Jeff said, "Go ask my op that might go Drake his ass get out that car." This was a clear reference to Lil murder. He also stated that the killing was to get back for Zed Money's death, emphasizing that the loss of his friend had made him see red and pushed him to take violent action. Jeff's admission was not subtle. He and his crew used social media to taunt their rivals, posting videos and comments that left little doubt about their involvement in Leo's murder. This level of self-snitching was Lil Jeff's actions were shocking, even in the world of drill music, where rappers often talk about real-life violence. The way he spoke so openly about it made people pay attention, but it also made him a target. Another shocking moment in his life was when people said he was involved in a double murder on January 26, 2024. The victims were Monty, whose real name was Montario Williams, and Little Rob, whose real name was Robert Boston. Monty was 17 years old and part of a rival gang called BKN. Little Rob was only 16. On that day, Monty and Little Rob were standing outside their school, Innovations High School. Suddenly, two cars pulled up, and a group of gunmen jumped out. What happened next was terrifying. An open fire. Both teens were struck multiple times in the chest and were pronounced dead at the hospital. What made this crime particularly chilling was Lil Jeff's response. Instead of staying silent, he took to social media to openly brag about the murders. In a series of posts and videos, Jeff claimed responsibility for the killings, stating that they were retaliation for being robbed by BKN members. He even referenced Monty's nickname Czar in a song mocking the teen's death with lyrics like "I turned Czar into smoke." In one video, Jeff bragged about the murder, saying, "I came back, poof." Lil Jeff mocked his victims, posting videos where he showed off stolen items and made fun of the people he had allegedly killed. His actions were shocking. It was rare for someone to openly admit to such serious crimes, but Jeff did not try to hide anything. His confessions were not just small hints or hidden messages. They were clear, direct, and detailed. He wanted everyone to know exactly what he had done. For Lil Jeff, social media was more than just a way to talk to people. He used it to build his name, spread fear, and brag about his actions for the world to see. Reputation and a catalyst for his downfall, he frequently went live on Instagram showing off weapons, dropping his location, and even snorting DR on camera. Jeff's admissions were not limited to these two incidents. He frequently hinted at having over 10 bodies and claimed to be a top killer in Chicago. That you got to at least have a 2. I'm going give y'all 2 minimum a 2. I'm going start at 2 minimum cause you'll know I'm going start at 2 minimum. Now I'm just doing it for a tradition. I'm start at 2 minimum man 2. You got to have a minimum of 2. The statements combined with his social media activity painted a clear picture of a young man who was deeply entrenched in violence and unafraid to flaunt it. Lil Jeff's actions on social media and his admission of murder made him in the streets of Chicago, where gang violence happens every day, being known as a top killer can bring both respect and danger. For Lil Jeff, his bold actions made him a target. His behavior caught the attention of rival gangs, the police, and even people in his own gang, who might have started to see him as a risk. On June 8, 2024, Lil Jeff's life ended in a violent way. He was shot in the chest on the 6600 block of South Roads, an area controlled by his rivals, Trap City. Surveillance footage from the scene showed Jeff chasing someone into a house, only to be caught and shot. Shot by someone inside, he was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead at just 21 years old. Following his death, rival gang members took to social media to celebrate his demise, posting diss tracks and mocking his downfall. Meanwhile, those close to Jeff mourned his passing, but the reality was clear that his lifestyle and actions had caught up with him. IG Live after killing 2 young boys on January 26, 2024. Bloodhound Lil Jeff went live on Instagram just 18 minutes after a double murder that left 2 young boys dead. The Montario Williams and Robert Boston were shot and killed outside their school, Innovations High School, in broad daylight. The shooting was brutal and planned, with witnesses saying the gunman fired many shots before quickly running away. What happened next shocked everyone in Chicago's drill scene. Lil Jeff went live on Instagram, where he proudly bragged about the murders and made fun of his victims. The video, which lasted just under 30 seconds, shows Lil Jeff sitting in the driver's seat of a car, speaking with no fear or concern. In the car, Lil Jeff is wearing a black jacket and a tactical vest. The vest has the words "spraying" and "praying" on it, a term used in gang violence to describe shooting a lot of bullets and hoping some of them hit the target. The vest clearly shows that Jeff was ready for violence and had no plans to hide it. Some people noticed that the vest made it clear he knew exactly what he was doing that night. Jeff's behavior in the video is calm, but there is an intensity to him. He has an energy filled with adrenaline, as if he just came from a very dangerous situation. His eyes are wide, and his face shows that he knows exactly what has just happened. His movements are erratic, as if he's still riding the adrenaline high from the shooting. Jeff's outfit also grabbed attention. In the passenger seat sits T-Slip, another member of Jeff's crew. He's wearing a mask that covers most of his face, but his body language suggests he's just as hyped up as Jeff. A third individual sits in the back seat, his face fully exposed. This carelessness has led many to think he might have played a smaller role in the shooting, but being in the car right after the murders it is hard to ignore the video. It starts with Lil Jeff rapping along to a drill song with the music blasting in the background. The strong beat and intense lyrics create a chaotic feeling. Drill music often talks about real-life violence and gang activity, and Jeff's wide eyes and restless energy make it clear that he is still feeling the rush from the shooting. It almost seems like he is proud of what just happened. Many people said that the music made the whole video feel like a scene from a movie. But in reality, everything in that moment was very real. Lil Jeff's IG Live shows a raw and unfiltered side of him, showing the true chaos of his life. Unfiltered glimpse into his mindset right after the murders. Jeff also went live sometime later and said, "I went black for like a week and poof, where you it got to go after that, poof, I came back, poof." This line stands out the most because Jeff is basically admitting to the murders. He uses slang to describe how he disappeared for a week before carrying out the hit. The word poof, which means to kill someone, makes the whole thing even more chilling. What makes it worse is how casually he says it, like he's talking about something. Instead of just being a regular video, this IG Live turned into a confession of a double murder. The video got a lot of different reactions, from shock and disbelief to dark jokes and strong criticism. Many people were left speechless by Jeff's boldness. One Reddit user commented, "This guy did not care at all, WTF." Jeff's complete lack of concern for what he had done shocked many viewers. Another common reaction was frustration with the Chicago Police Department. One person commented, "The CPD is either ignoring this or just too slow to do anything." Many people felt that the police were not doing enough to stop the violence. Overwhelmed or don't give a Jeff's willingness to post a video so soon after a violent crime suggested to many that he had little to no fear of law enforcement, further fueling criticism of the police. Speculation about Jeff's motives also emerged. Some believe that Jeff's actions were driven by a need to protect his reputation, especially after Monty and Little Rob allegedly robbed him of valuable items like watches and jewelry. This act of disrespect reportedly pushed Jeff to retaliate, leading to the fatal confrontation. The craziness of the situation did not go unnoticed by viewers. Many people pointed out how Jeff quickly posted a video bragging about the murders, which made them wonder why he was not caught by the police right away. The streets of Chicago have long been filled with violence, revenge, and loss. The city was shaken once again by a senseless act of gun violence that took the lives of two teenagers, 16-year-old Robert Boston, known as Lil Rob, and 17-year-old Monterio Williams, also called Monty. The tragedy unfolded around 12:25 p.m. near the intersection of Wabash Avenue and Washington Street, a bustling area in Chicago's Loop District. The location is just steps away from Innovations High School, a CPS charter school where both victims were students. The area is typically crowded during lunch hour, filled with tourists, commuters, students, and workers. On this fateful day, however, it became the scene of a brutal and calculated attack, according to Chicago Police Central Control Group Deputy Chief John Hines. 6 students were Lil Rob and Monty were leaving their school when two cars, a dark sedan and an SUV, pulled up nearby. Several masked people got out of the cars and started shooting at them. The shooting happened near an elevator at the Washington Wabash Loop L stop, which is a busy transit station. Witnesses said they heard many gunshots, with some saying it sounded like firecrackers. This made people think that a modified gun, like a Glock with a switch to make it shoot automatically, might have been used. Were struck multiple times, with Lil Rob sustaining gunshot wounds to his chest and Monty being hit in the right hip and chest. Despite immediate efforts by paramedics to save their lives, both teens were pronounced dead at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. A third victim, Barones Vargas, a bystander, was grazed by a bullet that tore through her jacket sleeve. She described the incident as terrifying, saying, "I was afraid it hit me too by accident." Close call underscores the indiscriminate nature of the violence, which put countless. Lil Rob, the younger of the two, was described by everyone who knew him as a cheerful teenager with a big smile. Community activist Andrew Holmes, who spoke with the families of the victims, said that Lil Rob had a kind and positive personality. He was loved by his friends. His family was completely heartbroken by his death and struggled to understand why such a senseless tragedy happened to him. Monty had dreams of working in the trades. Unlike many of his friends who wanted to go to college, Monty planned to focus on building a career with his hands. His family and friends were left in shock, remembering the bright future he had ahead of him. Becoming a painter, a career that would allow him to work with his hands and build a stable future, his family remembered him as a hardworking and determined young man who was taken too soon. In the immediate aftermath, the scene was chaotic. Witnesses described seeing the two teens lying on the sidewalk surrounded by friends and bystanders who desperately tried to help. Paramedics performed CPR on both victims, but their injuries were too severe. The area was quickly cordoned off by police and streets were closed as investigators. Mohammed Ashik, a local shopkeeper who has run his business in the area for 40 years, described diving for cover when the bullets started flying. "My head felt so heavy, I could not even move," he said, clearly shaken by what had happened. The Chicago police quickly started a detailed investigation into the shooting, making it a top priority because of where it happened and the young age of the victims. The police believe the shooting was not random and might have been part of an ongoing conflict or revenge. There was a lot of speculation about why it happened, but the full details were still unknown. Arisen about potential connections to prior conflicts involving the victims. Monty in particular had been mentioned in connection with a recent robbery involving rapper Lil Jeff, known for his involvement in "I Came Back Po." In a vlog posted just days before the shooting, Monty was seen engaging in a tense FaceTime call with Lil Jeff, during which he taunted the rapper about stolen. This event has led some people to think that the shooting might have been an act of revenge. However, the police have not confirmed any direct connection between this shooting and earlier incidents. The shooting has caused both anger and sadness all over Chicago. Community leaders, activists, and politicians are all calling for an end to the violence. Mayor Brandon Johnson shared a statement offering his condolences to the families of the victims and the Innovations High School community. Outside of Innovations High School, 2 memorials were set up for the victims as people gathered to mourn their loss. 2 students were sadly shot just as classes were ending for the weekend. Mayor Brandon Johnson wrote, "I offer my deepest condolences to their families and the Innovations High School community as they face the unimaginable pain and trauma caused by this senseless act of violence." Community activist Andrew Holmes, who has worked hard to support victims of gun violence, shared his sadness and frustration over the deaths of Lil Rob and Monty. "You have no right to take another person's life like that," he said. "This is a horrible act that should never happen." This is cold-blooded murder history of violence. Lil Jeff became a well-known name in Chicago's underground rap scene, especially in drill music. His life was filled with violence and gang ties, which shaped who he was and eventually led to his tragic death. Lil Jeff was born and raised in Chicago, a city known for its rich musical history but also for its struggles with gang violence. Growing up in a challenging environment, he was exposed to the harsh realities of street life from a young age. His family background played a significant role in when Lil Jeff was just 14 years old. Something happened that would stay with him forever. His home was hit by a drive-by shooting, and bullets flew through the walls, barely missing him. This scared him, but it also made him feel a sense of urgency. Instead of leading him away from the streets, this event seemed to make him more determined to stay involved. His older brother, who was already part of that world, introduced Jeff to it. By the time he turned 18, Jeff had fully become part of that life. Jeff's life came on June 8, 2024. Reports say that Lil Jeff and other members of the Bloodhounds went into Trap City's area, likely with bad intentions, as tensions between the gangs had been rising. It is said that Lil Jeff was chasing someone when gunshots suddenly rang out from a nearby house. An unknown person began shooting at him, hitting him multiple times. In total, Lil Jeff was struck by 19 bullets. Sadly, he passed away shortly after the shooting, unable to survive the injuries. The details surrounding his death are unclear. Some rumors say the person who shot him was caught but later let go because the incident was seen as mutual combat. Lil Jeff's life shows how easily someone can get caught up in cycles of violence, driven by loyalty to gangs and revenge for what they see as betrayals or wrongs. Even with his violent reputation, Lil Jeff still managed to make a name for himself in Chicago's rap scene. His legacy is still a big topic of conversation among both fans and critics. Some see him as a tragic figure, a young man trapped in a cycle of violence he couldn't escape. Others view him as a symbol of everything wrong with gang culture, someone who chose violence over peace, leading to his own early death. But to truly understand Lil Jeff's story, you have to look at the bigger picture of gang violence in Chicago. The city has battled crime and gang activity for decades, with neighborhoods often divided by gang lines. These rivalries can turn deadly in an instant. Drill music. Drill music became popular in the early 2010s, and it quickly became the soundtrack of life on the streets. Artists use their music to tell real stories about surviving, dealing with loss, and living in tough areas. Some people appreciated drill for its honest, raw portrayal of life, while others blamed it for promoting violence and keeping the cycle of crime going. Lil Jeff, like many others, was influenced by the streets and found his voice in drill music. However, in the end, the life he rapped about led to his downfall. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our content, our newest videos are just one click away.